It's all coming up party!
Before telling about the freak of today, we have to get into the game of Soulcalibur 2. It's a 3D weapon fighter with plenty of flair. Characters use all sorts of awesome weapons like nunchucks, massive axes, and the bow staff. The movement in this game is very simple and fantastic, allowing you to run in every direction, making sidestepping way more accessible compared to a game like Tekken. It's a 4-button fighting game, 3 for attacking and 1 for guarding. You've got your horizontal, your verticals, and your kicks. Your horizontals are your A, your verticals are your B's, and your kicks are your K. Horizontals tend to be very fast, quick pokes that are good at denying sidestep, and verticals are very good for putting on pressure and starting launchers. Kicks tend to be your quick attacks or attacks attached with gimmicks. That's everything you need to know about Soulcalibur 2. It was a classic 3D fighter, arcade fighter. Didn't really have any meter mechanics, for example. There was no super gauge, there's no installs. It's just a simple 3D fighter with weapons. But it's time for the oddball of the day. The slave to the death merchant, Voldo. Voldo is a very strange looking man, and you don't need me to tell you that. He uses these claw gauntlets to attack with some very odd poses for sure. The character was a very peculiar design. It's a bit of a stance heavy character that did a ton of aggressive offense. He was a character that could play neutral very well, and then he had a back turn stance for aggression. We're not talking about you. He's extremely flexible, could do whatever the hell he wants, and he was also a top tier character. Even though he was an awkward character to play and look at, if you get your rhythm down, he was very strong. Now it's time for the story, and Soulcalibur stories tend to be very fun, weird, or a little bit of both. In this case, it's certainly weird. Voldo worked for a fella called Vareci in Italy as he was his slave. We're already starting off pretty mad. Patriarch was known as the Death Merchant, as he was the one that supplied the Spanish Armada and their ships. When fighting in a large shipboard, Voldo actually protected his master. As he was his slave, that was his only objective. And of course, this explains the bondage appearance that he's got going on. It's very weird. Certainly some fetish shit going on there. But then the line, his master eventually passed away, leaving his riches to be grabbed. Because of this issue, Voldo swore his life to protecting the money pit that his master left, all while searching for the soul edge, the sacred blade that everybody's after in this world. The master during his life did anything to try and obtain it, and his slave is looking to do just that. Very insane story. Very, very insane. But you gotta appreciate how creative they were with it, you know? Trying to add a slave character in it without playing to the usual stereotypes, it was a very weird character for sure. Let's talk about his toolkit and why it was very weird, but also unique. His movement is good across the board, with a lot of his attacks being able to move out the way of other attacks and just the usual good fast walk speed. Now I know what you're thinking of a design like Voldo. Claw hands, good movement, he's a rush down with stubby normals, and here's the thing. He didn't have stubby normals. His normals actually had a lot of really good reach. He could play neutral to a fantastic degree. A lot of his tools had good reach, like his AA or BB, so you couldn't be comfortable just standing about in neutral knowing that you're kinda in his range. He had a really good long reach and low off of his sidestep kick, allowing him to actually get a knockdown on a counter hit, and a normal hit keep plus frames, keep the stagger off hits going. And lastly, his free A plus B was an insanely strong normal. You're able to fly across the screen and deal a good chunk of change. It was punishable, but the reach on it was so good. And the other thing that made it scary was that you could charge it and make it unblockable, which anyone seeing this is going to sidestep it and not be scared. However, there was one major factor you always had to keep in mind. Voldo can feint this any time. So he can fly at you, or he can make it unblockable, or he can cancel it and do run up throw. Get comfortable wherever he was on screen, because his reach was actually quite vast despite having very stubby ideology, I guess. So in neutral, he was mind games galore. You couldn't be comfortable. Like I said, could not be comfortable. Neutral was defined by how long his reach was. His mids were good, his tracking tools were good, and his lows were good. So he was overall solid in neutral. You get the point. However, to make up for this factor, his damage across the board wasn't high. In this game, a lot of characters have damage in routings or damage in tools. Voldo didn't really have a ton of damage. On the occasional poker setup, he can get a large chunk of change through steamrolling, but besides that, he wasn't going to delete your health off of one interaction. 2, 3, maybe 4 is how many it took for him to kill you. One of his best ways to set up damage? was for throwing. His throw game was interesting as he had multiple avenues of offense to go for afterwards. One was damaging and could ring out pretty easily, the other one would put him in his back turn stance, which we'll get into in a bit. Lastly, he had a secret command grab where if you press kick and guard together, he'll actually grab you. It did a ton of damage, led to decent OK, but couldn't be used for ring outs. And the interesting thing is, not many characters have a grab with the kick button. It's very rare that you'll see that. It was very weird, but it made his throw game very in-depth as you had two different tech windows you had to look out for, and if you caught you on a side throw, you were going to take a lot of damage. So stances, I've mentioned him a couple of times now. He's a stance heavy character, so what did he do? Well, he had a back turn stance and turned him into a very belligerent character. Not you! We're not telling about you! He had many ways to get into his back turn, like his throw mentioned earlier, 2B, and just doing quarter circle back. In back turn, if he was able to hit you, he could keep the pressure going. On block, he was minus by just a minuscule amount, meaning he could still RPS, maybe do mid into the low, try to catch you for trying to hit him, as his low was super evasive. Characters that were slow, they had a difficult time trying to stop this offense, as their buttons just could not match the speed as his back turn stance. A good Voldo will make you hate this stance once he gets started. Back turn stance makes a lot of sense, it was called blind stance, but this next stance was just really fucking weird. He would lie on the ground, just straight up lie on the ground, he could poke your shins, he could do mids, he can go wild, and it was very silly. However, he can proc himself up, and in doing so, it was a very awkward animation where he'd still avoid a ton of attacks. And he also had a low unblockable where he'd run at you, so he was weird. He was very, very weird once he got the stance going. He's just as weird as Yoshimitsu in this game. Here's the thing, if you wanted to stop somebody who was a master on defense and wanted priority, well, he can fuck the air. Yeah, that's right, he'll just hump the air, but humping the air was an insane strategy as it allowed him to attack people that were attacking. It had high priority, so he could beat a ton of tools on mashing. It's also a combo start as well, so again, very silly. And again, there's so many stuff that you could do in this stance, like you can roll out, it's unblockable, run up walls. It was goofy, it was silly, but the main goal wasn't to do a structured layer offense, it was to get creative, silly, and do dumb shit that the opponent wasn't ready for. Pressure was strong as noted before. Voldo players had to get really good with the character's weird movement, stances that are very unconventional for both you and the opponent, and getting used to tricky matchups. This was a very weird character, it took players with specific taste to really play him. Considered top tier with a decent amount of play. He wasn't a rare character, but he wasn't exactly common. So the question is, who made him work? Looking at recent footage from TNS, I can find some really good players like Old Bone and Barkeeper who really tried their best with the character in the current NA meta. But Voldo was a very fun character to watch. He's very silly and weird, but it feels so convoluted, but as a spectator it can truly be beautiful some of the silly shit he gets away with. I think it's a good approach to a rushdown in a 3D fighter instead of going like, oh, he'll do bog standard offense. It's like, let's make it so his back turn can't guard, let's make him so he lies on the floor for offense, and let's make him hump the fucking air for a good day. It's a weird design, certainly risky, and they took their chances with a character like Voldo, and I feel like he's one of the more iconic weird characters in fighting games. Next to characters like maybe Foss, Dan, you name it, he really stands out. I feel like a lot of people know who Voldo is, and if they don't, they're missing out. My hope is for a new Soulcalibur game down the line. It's been a bit since 6, and 6 kind of left a bad taste in my mouth with Reversal Edge. Hopefully with 3D fighters trying to reinvent themselves like Virtua Fighter, and maybe Tekken for a little less to an extent, but it'll be good, I think. If the next Soulcalibur comes out, I feel like it'll be a banger. That's everything I've got to say. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Odd. Be sure to like, hype, sub, and tell me who you want me to cover that you think is a very odd and weird character. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya!